us, and you just heard our guest introduce herself, Nicole Boyd, Senator from District 9, representing Lafayette and Panola counties, joins us this morning. Always good to see that's my senator, by the way. Good morning.
Good morning.
So good to see you as always. Always enjoy these conversations. Let's just jump right in. You are on the Universities and Colleges Committee, chair of that committee.
I am.
And we have been hearing for a while now about enrollment cliffs. Right. That is a national issue. It seems to be less of an issue in the South, and maybe even making it more micro, less of an issue in the state of Mississippi. I know we haven't gotten the official enrollment numbers from the IHL yet. I think those usually come later this month. But anecdotally, it appears as if our colleges and universities are doing exceptionally well.
Well, our two larger universities are doing exceptionally well.
Okay.
We have a situation with our regional universities that we're going to be looking at some more. We did some hearings on it last year. We see that enrollment cliff. It really starts to hit in 25. It's when you're going to see the fall of 25. It's when you're really going to see that kind of hit a little bit more. And so we're going to be I've been meeting with our regional university presidents, and it is something that all of them have a plan on that they're trying to attack, but it is a significant issue. We know we have less population in this state, and so two of our larger universities have done a great job really of recruiting outside the state, of making sure that they are also recruiting within the state. One of the issues, too, that we're going to be really encouraging them to do is we have a tremendous number of people in this state who started college, got a little bit through, and then abandoned it for some reason. And so we know that that leads to labor force participation issues. We know that it leads to a whole host of other issues. So we're really going to be focused on trying to see, particularly with our regional universities, what we can do in regards to that. Also, we're going to be looking at graduation rates. So we're having hearings in December. We'll be talking at a host of those things and making sure we have a lot of student debt in the state from those people that started and then didn't finish. And so we're going to be really looking at all of those issues. We're having some hearings in December. I've been meeting with a number of university councils on different issues and things like that. But we've also got some great programs they're doing at our universities. I was at Mississippi State University a couple of weeks ago. They have a tremendous program for children that are in the foster care system. So nationally, what we know is about 3% of children that are in the foster care system actually matriculate and get a 4-year degree. Mississippi State is raising that to about 70%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, so it's tremendous programs. At Ole Miss, which is, just a rock's throw from my house, they are doing some incredible things with first-generation students, students whose families didn't go to college. And those are typically students who have a little bit more difficulty. When things get tough, maybe they want to, there's not the family support there to really stick it through. And so they're doing some incredible things with them. Also, as the mother of a special needs child, I am always impressed and know the importance of really helping those that have some type of disability, whether it be a mild disability like dyslexia or it be something more substantial. And so our universities are really doing a good job of really making sure those individuals get a degree. And those are really important to us as a state, too, because we look at our labor force participation rate, which the Senate has been having a lot of hearings on and going to continue to do that. And we're going to be having a joint hearing and some other issues with that. But we know that our labor force participation rates in Mississippi are close to the worst in the country. We kind of battle West Virginia for what's the worst in the country. And so all of these things really play into the fact of how do we raise these labor force participation rates that we have in the state.
We were talking there about four-year universities. I guess this is anecdotal as well, but through conversations with a couple of community college presidents, it does sound like there is growth that is happening, and it's kind of two-tiered because there's a campus-like system for most of these schools with residential availability. They're seeing campus growth, but also a lot of the workforce growth, whether it's certificate programs or partnering with some of the new business development opportunities that are to train workers specifically for whether it's automobile manufacturing or automation or some of those things. It feels like there's a niche there that is really being handled well.
There is a niche there, and I've got to say, there has been a really focus on this the last 4 years. When we came into office 5 years ago, we had all these different agencies that were involved with workforce development. I think they stopped counting at like 54, and so they have refocused all of that under one umbrella. They're really refocusing, working with the community colleges on that. They're putting workforce coaches out. And so they're really partnering with the industries in those areas, trying to make sure that the trainings that are offered at the local community colleges also help the industries in that area. And there's been a tremendous effort that has been put forth with that. So that's something that has been ongoing for the last 4 years. They've done a tremendous job with that, and Accelerate Mississippi. And so that partnership is absolutely critical. You also see those partnerships then extend to our universities. In our own community, we have the Center for Manufacturing Excellence, which has been a great partner in really looking and working with those industries in the different areas. You've got lots of partnerships going on that are really accelerating that. And what I'm so impressed with, too, is you see our universities and colleges really partnering with those community colleges. So they kind of create a seamless system for students to be able to go ahead and matriculate and get this 4 years degree. And, training is, we look at our wage rates in Mississippi, and they're not the best. But what we know is students who get that 2 and 4 year degree, you're looking at a difference of about $1 million in their lifetime earnings.
Over a lifetime.
Over their lifetime. And so those degrees and those certificate programs are incredibly important. And so while we, often say not everyone needs a college degree, but they do need a certificate training program. They do need some type of level of proficiency, because we know that that's going to make a difference in their wages.
Well, there's so many needs within a lot of those technical skills, whether you're talking about construction-related skills in plumbing or electrical or diesel mechanics and on and on and on, programs that are all offered across the state of Mississippi. Nicole, I want to go back to something that you touched on just a second ago, and this may take us in a direction we didn't intend to go. You are, prior to being elected, and have been an advocate for special needs children,
right,
children with intellectual disabilities in the state. You are the mother of a son with special needs and intellectual disabilities. There are a small number of universities across the country that have really embraced programs for these kids. Clemson is a great example.
Right.
They've got what's called the Clemson Life program, and it's a 2-year program to help students who have certain disabilities learn how to interact with others and be employable and live independently. Has there been any conversation, whether it be at Ole Miss or Mississippi State or Southern Miss or one of our other schools, about trying to start a program like that in Mississippi?
So Mississippi State has a program, their Access program. They have a program for that. And it's not just for children with intellectual disabilities, but it's also with children who have maybe high-functioning autism, which they are very smart and very bright, but they need additional help to navigate the college system. And so autism really kind of is an executive functioning issue sometimes. And so they have been very successful. A lot of their students you will see on Giving the News and programs across the country in their meteorology program. So you'll see different things like that. So they've done a really good job with that. Ole Miss is actually starting a program. They are working towards that right now. And I'm personally excited to see that program develop. So I think those are some things that we're looking forward to. Southern Mississippi has some things going on down there as well. So you're going to see those kind of at our larger universities because of capacity and issues like that. But I think we're seeing some highlights in that. Yet there's some tremendous programs across the country. Alabama has an amazing program that they've had for a number of years now, and I know they've been looking at some of those programs like that.
Yeah.
So
I've just got a colleague at ESPN who lives in South Carolina and has a son that went through that Clemson Life program
amazing.
and just raved about
Right.
how it took him from He was always a great kid that was involved and wanted to be, but it was like it gave him life.
Absolutely.
Not to use the name of their program, but it really is special, some of what is happening in those places. We will continue our conversation with Senator Nicole Boyd. She represents District 9, Lafayette County, and Panola counties after a quick timeout. This is the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk, Mississippi. So we're talking about colleges and universities. That's one of the hats that you wear in the Senate. The other is, or one of the others, has to do with women, children, families, mothers. The last time we were together, we discussed a little bit of that. There is a task force of sorts, I believe, that has been put together to talk about some of the issues that this group is facing. What can you tell us?
So the task force was formed about 2 years ago. It's kind of a study commission after Roe v. Wade was overturned. The state took the opportunity to say, hey, what are we doing for our women, children, and families, as many Republican states did across the country. And so we have passed, we met then 2 years ago, and we passed about, it has resulted in about 22 pieces of legislation that affects women and children and families. And it's everything from looking at postpartum coverage extensions, making sure that a woman has appropriate health care after she delivers that baby, to looking at baby drop-off laws, to also then working very closely with CPS in our state and making changes to a lot of their procedures, trying to help preserve families the best way we can. And if those families can't be preserved, then trying to make sure that our children get to permanency faster and are able to get adopted faster. So we worked with CPS. We have been working very closely with CPS on that. So we had testimony last week we had 2 days of hearings last week. So they were very busy. And one of the issues, too, that we've taken really to look at this past year is really looking at mental health issues. We had the Commissioner of Mental Health testify last week, and then we've also that has been an offshoot of this, had a task force that was a youth mental health task force that issued their report last week. And it looked everything from K through college. Because we know that there has, after the pandemic, it was kind of before the pandemic, I like to say it was a stream. It was kind of a full stream and it was flowing. After the pandemic, the issues just became a raging river with all the mental health issues. And our teachers were coming to us and saying, hey, we got to have a little help here. Can you give us more training and all of that? The good news is a lot of that's already available in the state of Mississippi. People just didn't know about it. And so your community mental health centers, if you're a teacher, or you're in your church or a community group, they give free mental health training. So all you've got to do is call your community mental health center. They go to schools, they educate teachers. They have all these programs available to do that. One of the things, too, that it led us to looking at, that I don't know if it's popular or unpopular, is really looking at cell phone usage in schools. That's something that our teachers are saying.
That is a hot button issue, depending on whether or not you ask a teacher or a 14-year-old.
Yeah, the 14-year-old says we're just fine. We don't need any help with it. But I'll tell you, if you're a parent out there, I'm going to encourage you to really grab this book. It's called Anxious Generation, and it's Jonathan Haidt. And we have all been reading that in the Senate. And in a lot of our House members, too, actually. We are all looking at this book and really documenting what our social media has done with our children and what it's promoted and what it's done. And although cell phones can be your best friend, they also can be your worst enemy. And what is that appropriate use of that? So anyway, so that's just one of the things we're looking at. We're going to be encouraging schools to look at as well. It's what's your policies on that?
There's one thing that you mentioned when you were talking about the motherhood piece of it and some of the things that are available. We all have friends who have gone through the adoption process.
Right.
And there are a lot of barriers there, expense, time, frustration that exists. Is there a way to make that process easier, less expensive, and just better overall for the people who desperately want to be parents, but are burdened kind of by this process to go along with the fact that maybe they are unable to be parents biologically.
Right. So what we did is over the last 2 years is we tried to look at our systems that we had in place in the state of Mississippi to make it easier, really kind of getting rid of some laws where they were really duplicative and didn't really make sense, and we're just kind of putting a burden in the system. But the other thing, too, that we've really done is we have a lot of great foster parents who want to adopt children.
Yeah.
And so we've really tried to make sure that these cases of these children are not just hanging out there for years and years, and then the parents are not able to adopt these children. So we've tried to put, appropriate timelines in place, but still, making sure that we do put some rights in place for the natural parents. And so it's kind of a balance that you have to do, but we have really worked hard to try to move these children to permanency much faster in the state when that situation is not going to be, when there's no hope to get that child reunified with the family. And so we've put a lot of procedures in place with that. We've really tried to ease that adoption. We've also put some adoption credits. We've increased those adoption credits that we give to families. That's one of the things we did, trying to help out with some expenses with that. So there's better tax credits that we've done with that. So we really want to make sure. And then there's some other things, too, that we've done for foster families. We've put some foster parents' Bill of Rights in place. And then we're discussing things in our hearing next week, even trying to maybe try to get some ombudsman in the Department of in CPS for those families to make sure there's somebody always there hearing about their voices and really kind of helping with those children with issues.
Visiting with Senator Nicole Boyd. Got just a couple of minutes left. So what's next? I mean, you talk about committees and task force. I mean, when you said 22 pieces of legislation have passed, I mean, yeah, that feels rare when you take a single issue and there's that much law that is put in place in a relatively short period of time. What's next for this task force? So we focused on CPS. We've still got some things to do there. The state has been under basically federal court order for 20 years with our CPS system. And we have a commissioner now, Commissioner Sanders, who is really working hard to help us get out of that. And so the legislature is very much federal court order for
our CPS system, saying that we're not doing it correctly and that we're not doing it right. And so we want to get out of that court order, but we also are really working hand in hand with CPS to make sure that we're providing an appropriate system. We heard from Department of Mental Health last week. We're going to be doing some things to increase make sure that people are aware of services, working with our community mental health centers on that. And then we'll also be having a joint task force with our labor force participation task force that's going on, where we're going to be looking at child care in the state of Mississippi. We know that child care is a significant barrier for some people getting into the workforce. And so we're going to be looking at what some other states have done in regards to that, really looking at things on a local, regional level of what they can do. Looking at the tax credits, we've put a number of tax credits in during these last 2 years. We're going to see if those are being effective. And really talking to some industries like Toyota, Sanderson Farms, that have really gone out there and invested in employee child care. Okay. So those are things that we're going to be looking at, all of that, and then we're going to be looking at some other health issues.
Yeah, and forgive me for interrupting. Some of what I hear you saying is some of what have been hot button topics at the national level in this election. When you talk about child tax credits and helping children, I mean, the questions have been asked. Neither candidate, frankly, has asked how or explained how they're actually going to do this. It's interesting to me that this is a focus at the state level. Is this lawmakers in Jackson saying we're not going to wait on the federal government to do this? We're going to try and tackle this on our own?
Look, no, we're not going to wait on the federal government to tackle this. This also is something that needs to be done at the very local level. We're looking at some other states who really, I think they called it regional ready, that they have child task force and looking kind of at their individual communities and see what's available there, and then what we can do to assist helping them navigate that. But these issues are best tackled at the local level. We can provide some support at the state level, which we are providing. But this is about individual communities looking at their community and saying, do we have enough childcare? Is that going to help us attract additional industry? And can we support the industry that we even have because of childcare issues? Because I can tell you, every industry that I go in, the number one thing there's two things they ask me for. They say we need financial literacy for our employees that come in here. We need to do a better job with that at schools. And I need help with childcare. So those are the two issues I hear repeatedly at every industry in the state of Mississippi.
Nicole, thank you so much for your time this morning. Appreciate the work that you're doing. Thankful to have you as my senator, as I know many others are in this part of the state, and always enjoy the conversation.
Thank you.
Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd joining us this morning on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll take a time out, wrap up the 7 o'clock hour when we come back with you. Get some of your text messages as well on the C Spire text line. This is the Gallo Show on SuperTalk Mississippi.